Hello and welcome to Crucible of Words for more dedicated Legacy action. For today's midweek meta deck, we are playing Andy Hind's Legacy Cup winning painter deck. This was a tournament that took place at MagicCon in Amsterdam, and it's a slightly unusual list in that it's running technically 3 colours, where normally you'd see 2 colours in these decks, or just red. So, Painted Servant, for those who are unfamiliar, it's a 2 mana 1/3 as it enters the battlefield, importantly not when, so it can't be stifled when it enters. Cards that aren't on the battlefield and permanents in play and everything, they're the colour you choose in addition to other colours. So we name blue with this, and it turns on our Pyroblast to just hit anything we want. But the main thing we're trying to do with it is using our Grindstone. So we mill the top 2 cards of our opponent's library. If they're the same colour, we keep doing this. So that will mill out our opponent's entire library if we have the Painter and Servant in play. It's the main way we try and win this game, but this deck also has a pretty solid, fair game plan. So the Fable Mirror Break is just a great card that we can get ridiculous amounts of value out. We have Goblin Engineer and Goblin Welder, so the Engineer can tutor for whatever we need, and between that and the Welder we can weld it in and out and do some pretty great things. For example, Chaos Defiler. Obviously, Engineer can't bring this back because it can only do smaller CMC 3 or lower, but if we go and fetch this, we have a Welder in play, we can just start stripping all of our opponent's permanents away. Well, non-land permanents at least, and this becomes quite a difficult thing for our opponent to deal with. That's a nice way that we can take over a game in the mid to late game. And then we have Phyrexian Dragon Engine. This is quite a lot of value. We discard our hand and draw 3 cards if it enters the battlefield from the graveyard. So when we're weldering this in or engineering this in, we're going to be refilling our hand, and that gives us a lot of staying power. And of course, we're an Urza Saga deck, so we can make some large creatures and beat down with those. In terms of our Urza Saga, we've got Lavaspur Boots, Pithing Needle, Saga Lantern, and of course the Grindstones that are going to be doing some of the winning for us. And we do have some fast mana and Lotus Petals and Mox Opal. There's also a Simian Spirit Guide. I just move it over here for you. So we've got a little bit of fast mana to help this work out. So the more unusual choices in this deck, I would say, is the fact that we are running 1 Canonist, which is something we can go and fetch with Engineer and then put into play. And we also have the 4 Source to Plowshares, which is something that's impressed me from painted decks on the other side of the table lately. This is just the cleanest removal you can get. And if we don't really care about our opponent's life total because we're milling them out, this is even better. We also have a 1-off Fury, which is a really nice thing to be copying with our Fable, but it's just some extra removal to go alongside what we've got going on here. So instead of running like the lightning bolts you normally see, we've got these plows, and we've also got the Pyroblast, which can become Vindicates if we've got a Painted Servant in play. So a lot to like here. We've managed to squeeze in 1 Elegant Parlor over here, and we're only running 2 Great Furnace. The reason you only run 2 of these Great Furnaces is to make it so you're not as bad against things like Null Rod and stuff out of the board or Meltdowns, so you have a little bit more staying power. And as you see, we haven't got a huge amount of artifacts. So we can play a game without just folding to Null Rod or whatever. Sideboard-wise, Maze of the Moon, obviously a bit of a nombo with our Urza Saga. When we need this, we really need this. So this will do a lot of work against our opponents. We've got a Canoptek Scarab Swarm that can come in and mess with our opponent's graveyard. So this is for fair graveyard decks. We'll still board it in against the unfair ones, most likely. But generally, it's for things that are trying to leverage their graveyard over time. And this can just continuously strip it out and also provide with threats. We've got some more removal in Furies. Some Mindbreak Traps for some of these scary combo decks that are popping off on turn 1. Some Sage Extractions for some additional graveyard hate alongside our Saga Lantern. An Ensnaring Bridge, which is a thing we can put in and tutor with our Engineer if we need to stop some aggro plans. More anti-combo hate in the form of Thorn of Amethyst. And then also a Vexing Bauble, which is a nice Urza Saga target. So a lot going on in this deck list. And I love painted decks because there's so much play to them, because you have a lot of decisions a lot of the time. So let's just jump right in and see how we fare. Please remember to like and subscribe to help the channel out, and let's get painting. So our opening hand for round 1 is the Urza Saga game. We have 12 lands that will get us red mana to play on, plus Simian Spirit Guides and Artifact mana. I think I will mulligan this one. I think like 1 wasteland and we just don't do anything. This hand is no good. It's too many lands. We're going to go to 5. Alright, this is pretty reasonable. So we keep this. We're getting rid of a Pyroblast because that's something for later. So Ancient Tomb is basically like having 2 lands, so we definitely want to keep that. So this is kind of where we're planning to go. We could just stick a Fable on turn 1. Then we throw back the Plow here. Or do we throw back the Petal? We could throw back the Grindstone. I think our way forward is probably going to be trying to dig towards Painter combo. If we throw back the Plow, we can have a turn 1 Fable, because we're going to be using up our white mana for that. I think that's reasonable. Obviously, if our opponent suggests to us that they're a Daze deck, then we might want to rethink that slightly. Alright, a Wasteland into a Vexing Bauble. Alright, our Lotus Petal not looking so good anymore. But that's what Fable Mirror Breaker is hopefully going to do for us. And loot that away. So we can play the Grindstone out. Next turn we can jam the Fable. We don't have to worry about counter spells now because the Vexing Bauble tells us that our opponent isn't running Force of Wills and Daze and things like that. Ancient 2 mana Wasteland. I think I would rather have a Fable here than be doing Engineer stuff right now. Because we're probably going to get our Ancient Tomb Wastelanded. And that's going to make us want access to more mana, which Fable Mirror Breaker can do either via treasure tokens or digging us into more mana. We already have one dead draw in hand as well. Alright. No Wasteland there for our opponent, but they might as well decide what they're doing in their turn rather than snapping it off the end of ours, because they might get a draw that changes what they want to do with the Wasteland. Alright, probably Thought-Knot Seer, I would imagine here. There it is. So they're likely to take the Engineer here. That's the strongest card in our hand right now. Attacking with this Goblin Shaman token doesn't feel great either. But we've got 2 cards we don't want, so these can go away. Lavaspur Boots. Really, not really doing the work for us there, is it? So as we cast this, we might as well equip it to our Shaman token. We're not attacking here, but if our opponent keeps leveraging their Ancient Tomb, maybe we can get a decent amount of damage in. Ooh, interesting. Playing this one. Are they playing something like the food chain list that I played in early access? Could be. Oh, they're not attacking with their Thought-Knots there. That is interesting. I think I would like a Badlands. I don't think I'm in Simian Spirit Guide territory just yet. I don't believe our opponent's going to have any graveyard synergies. So we can start manually grindstoning, although a lot of our opponent's permanents are colourless. Almost all of them, in fact. And colourless is not a colour. So this is unlikely to ever trigger more than once. We're not going to get the second bonus grind on it. Alright, something big. It's going to be like World Breaker or something. I kicked Sowing Microspawn. That's pretty good. I'm going to get a Wasteland here. Certainly a thing they're allowed to do. Yep. This game looks very difficult for us to win from this position. And we just mill them and now get some more information about their deck at least for next game. Mardu. Well, that is an interesting piece of information. For sure. Does that mean we're running like Shukos in there? Still not attacking. That seems wild to me. Okay. I think we need to just hold up this reflection. So last time we could have moved the Lavaspur Boots onto our reflection of Kiki-Jiki and given it haste so we could activate on the Goblin Shaman last turn. That might have been better than pinging off a Grindstone activation. But now knowing they have a Nardu, that is some pretty important information that we wouldn't have got otherwise. And this game is largely over, I would say. Yeah, I think we can put this one to bed now. We had 4 of our lands blown up. It's a lot. So Mages of the Moon is excellent in this matchup because our opponent needs actual colourless mana to cast a lot of their spells, and this can just turn that off completely. Furies are pretty good at killing their guys. Pyroblasts look pretty bad here. That leaves us with one more cut. So we could cut one of our Sagas because we bring in the Mages of the Moon. The Ethersworn Canonist doesn't seem great though. And if we don't have Magus, then the Saga is obviously just a very powerful card. Ensnaring Bridge, I think we probably want, so maybe we'll trim a Saga for that. Canoptek Scarab Swarm is okay here. Just lots of blockers isn't the worst thing. But we'd have to cut something for it, and what are we exactly supposed to cut? So, I guess the Saga Lantern, isn't it? That's probably the one. Although, I am worried that they have some kind of shuffle in Eldrazi. It's certainly a possibility. Because if they've got Nardu, they can probably reach quite a lot of mana. So I think I want to keep the one Saga Lantern just to hedge against that as a possibility. And at the end of the day, this does cycle. Alright, I think that'll do. And we'll submit like this. I've been very impressed with these Eldrazi aggro decks when I've played against them or with them. The Sowing Microspawn especially is a lot better than I gave it credit for when I first saw that card. Just being able to go and fetch up a Wasteland and just absolutely bury your opponent is so savage. If you blow up a land and fetch a Wasteland, it's like lights out. So what are we doing here? We can Pithing Needle on Wasteland, but this hand doesn't really go anywhere. It does give us access to a source to Plowshares, but we kind of need some sort of engine. So we need to be doing welding stuff. We need to be doing Fable stuff. I think we can do better than this. All right, I would describe this as better. We can keep this. And we probably burn one of the engineers. Given the matchup, we're probably going to want our plow. We're going to see a ley line. No ley line from our opponent. That's good news. And you get to continue doing welder things. If we can draw like a great furnace, we can just start doing Chaos Defiler stuff. Alright, so they got 2 of these in their hand. Really a thing you want 2 of in your hand. I guess you do get to look at 7 cards. Or potentially 8 if you don't like any of the first 4. Alright, just a little ivy again. A great furnace. That does allow us to immediately put whatever we want into play. So I think we do get the Defiler here. I think that is better than the Ensnaring Bridge. For the most part. Let me just hold up this welder. This is also a... when it enters or leaves. Or dies, sorry. So if they try and mess us up, we can always just put it in anyway. Okay. You can Thorn on Simi. That is not what this game is about anymore. So Fairy Macabre would be a bit of a blowout here. Alright, we're just in. We are in quite the commanding position right now. Let's go attacks. Send this one in. Play the Mox Opal. Play the Plateau. Would I like another Welder? I think so. Just gives us more ability to flip this in and out. I'm not sure how our opponent's supposed to get out from underneath this, given the nature of their deck. Because they have to win through making creatures, basically. And we can just say no to that whenever we like. I would like to have this Great Furnace in play instead. Saga Lantern. I think that's likely to get looted away more than anything here. I'll attack with a Defiler and an Engineer. We'll hold back both Welders. Got to be careful about playing the Saga Lantern as well. If our opponent somehow ends up with less cards in their graveyard, so they have no cards, then we need to be making sure that we're not exiling our own artifact. Right, which permanent of mine would you like to exile, opponent? They target the Defiler, then we just flip it, and then we can flip it back in and kill this. If they target the Welder, we can just let it go because we've got another Welder. Okay. Put up that guy. Also, there will come a point where we can start copying it with Fable as well. I think we can get rid of both of these right now. Another Chaos Defiler, you say? This guy makes the moon on the go. So our opponent can't cast any colourless spells anymore. Yeah, our opponent's had enough, and rightfully so. Turns out, turn 2 Chaos Defiler, pretty good. I don't think we want to do anything differently with how we sideboarded here. Canoptek Scarab Swarm being a colourless threat that can provide more bodies is not the worst. Especially since our opponent is a deck that we can happily grindstone away without giving them additional value. But where would that go is the question. I think all the other things we have are just better. I guess we could trim on a little bit of fast mana, but the thing with these fast mana is that they are ways of doing welder shenanigans, so I don't want to go low on these either. I do still think we want the hedge of the Saga Lantern in case that's the thing we require. So I think we're just going to resubmit. Our opponent doesn't use the graveyard, so we might not end up with very many tokens off our Scarab Swarm. Yeah, this hand plays Magic the Gathering. Devourer of Destiny. We're going to see something like a Vexing Bauble to shut off our Lotus Petal. They might have boarded them out because we're not like a Force of Will, Daze deck, or like a combo deck that relies on 0 drops. Alright, no play from our opponents. So I think we play out the Elegant Parlor first. Makes the Moon. That's certainly an interesting one. It does shut our opponent's deck down pretty hard. I think I will put it on top, even though there is some awkwardness with our Urza Saga. So we have the ability to play Makes the Moon next turn. Right. Using this Urza Saga like this does not feel great to me. But it does shut our opponent's deck down pretty hard. Although we could just deploy a Painter's Servant here. Now if we play this Makes the Moon, we're down to 1 mana source. I don't think I can do that. I think we just have to play the Painter's Servant this turn. This is also pretty good against Eldrazi anyway. We named red so that we can pitch more things to Fury. So their creatures are colorless. And then this only adds mana for colorless spells. Or colorless Eldrazi. So they could just Kozilek's Command here. Painter is a little bit of a miserable one for Eldrazi sometimes. Like, if they don't come out stomping early on, then they don't get to cast very many spells due to Maguses and Painters just jamming stuff up. So Ivugin doesn't do any mana now. Because again, that only attacks for colorless creatures. Or it doesn't tap, sorry, but it makes them cost less. Cavern of Souls. Nomi Eldrazi. So they can play something like a Thought-Knot Seer here. What is this? If it's kicked, exile target artifact or enchantment. Otherwise you can bounce something if you pay blue. Okay. Pretty cool. That turns back on their colourless lands. An Ancient Tomb. We've certainly got some options here. We could jam a Magus of the Moon and give up on our Saga. We could make a construct token that will be bigger than this creature. Which I'm also interested in. I'd rather have the Grindstone in play right now or the Lavaspur Boots. I think it might be the Boots. If we play the Boots out, because this gives us protection down the line for things like this potentially, as well as the haste, which could be really important if we're doing welder things later on. We only have one of these. So this means our creature will be a 3/3, so it'll be able to block this Waterscape Battle Mage, is that what's called? Yes. Wastescape. That makes way more sense than Waterscape, doesn't it? If they play the thing that pumps colourless creatures, that could be interesting. Just get Thought-Knot Seared or Mica Spawned. This looks like a kicked Mica Spawn to me. And they're going to go after our Urza Saga, I would imagine. This is the punish for not playing the Magus. But the fact is they have colourless mana. So they're not relying on this to make them the double mana they need. Okay. Gonna wasteland us of Ancient Tomb. Alright, Sunrise Lantern. That's certainly not irrelevant against us. It's getting a bit tough out here. Goblin Engineer seems pretty bad in the face of this Soulguide Lantern. We could plow a creature. I don't think we want the Grindstone here. I think we're just going to hold up plow and keep our Lavaspur Boots alive. Not feeling great about this one. A wasteland. Sure. I believe we can afford to take 3 in case there's a scary creature we have to plow. Okay, I think given they didn't play anything, we will just send her off for plow now. Because we're very tight on mana. Plowing is so weird to me. Alright, sure. Don't need to let us untap there. Okay, we don't have any mana here. So we just pass. We're going to see a Kozilek's Command. We are making a bunch of 1/1s and drawing and scrying 5 before they draw a card. So they've got the guy that gives them +1/+1 on their colourless creatures. Or is it colourless creature or Eldrazi? I can't remember what it pumps now. But it will pump everything on board. And that's going to be awkward. To say the least. Ivugin. Thought-Knot Seer. So how do we get back into this one? It probably involves a Fury. They can activate their Ivugin as well. And just throw some more Sowing Mica Spawns right in our face. A Fury. That is one of the things we required. I think the Engineer is a little bit weak given our opponent's Soulguide Lantern. So I'm going to pitch it to the Fury here. We can kill the Thought-Knot Seer, which is the biggest thing on the board. This also draws us a card. A Welder. That's not really where we need to be right now, is it? We need to draw some mana sources. But our opponent can just go and get a Sowing Mica Spawn saved up, or they can just go and get some giant monster. Oh, they're just drawing a card with that. Alright, that does change the power of the Welder in our hand. Another Thought-Knot Seer. Probably takes the Welder, but it might take the Grindstone because that's just an artifact we can play if we draw any land. I took the Welder. Cavern of Souls on Eldrazi, no doubt. I can probably just get another Battle Mage. Alright, they're just tutoring up another land with a Mica Spawn. Right, so by getting this, it means that their Ivogan taps for mana as well now. A Goblin Welder. If we play Goblin Welder, we end up with a 2-2, then we don't even get to trade with anything. We unfortunately don't really have any agency here. Like, the one really big decision we got to make, I think, this game, was whether or not we played the Magus out or tried to play off of the Urza Saga. And in hindsight, I think it obviously looks like one of those choices was a lot better than the other. But at the time, I didn't really want to just go down to one land, which is what happened anyway. It's kind of annoying, but our opponent's deck does look a lot more colourless heavy than some of the other ones as well. Oh, we found a land. Let's crack this. We'll go and get a mountain. Is that true? I think it is. Just has to be a mountain because we don't want to lose our white source that we can fetch for later. If we play out this Welder, it gives us a chance to draw. Yeah, if we play out this Welder, it gives us a chance to draw the Ensnaring Bridge off of the Engineer. So we could play Engineer next turn, Welder in and Ensnaring Bridge. That's reasonable. But we're going to see probably another Wastegate Battle Mage here. What they'd like to reveal to me. They've also got this Devourer of Destinies they can plink this way. Just another Micah Spawn. Yeah, I don't think we can win this one, really. Yeah, that decision to not play the Magus of the Moon out did hurt us. If our opponent didn't have the Micah Spawn, then I think it was definitely the right choice. So maybe we're supposed to just play around worst case scenario and not play into this. But we'd already mulliganed a little bit, I think. So no, we didn't mulligan this game, did we, actually? Yeah, just a bit awkward. We didn't really draw the lands we needed to after we got Wastelanded. But you can see how brutal this Eldrazi deck is. That's pretty impressive. Maybe I should have evaluated the Magus of the Moon higher. Although they did have the Kozilek's command. No, they used that. Yeah, they used that to make a bunch of guys, right? So they had the answer for it anyway. If they floated the mana. Interesting. All right, let's go to round 2. All right, this seems all right. We can weld our own stuff by grindstoning ourselves. That seems quite good. Scalding Tarn for our opponents. A basic island. Into a Delver of Secrets off of a basic island. That's unusual. Mystery's Bauble. So they're going to use this in our turn so they got more chance of flipping the Delver. I think we're just going to go for a Welder here. Off of a basic. This Commons Play tapped Elegant Parlor is going to be awkward. But the Welder's probably good enough to get some interaction from our opponent. Yep, there's a Daze. So next time we can play the Elegant Parlor and another Welder. And that uses our mana quite efficiently. I prefer if this was a Plateau in our hand right now, but there'll be times we fetch it and it's good though. Alright, they missed. Oh, they revealed the card anyway. They didn't have to do that. Just the island again. It could be mono blue Delver. Or they could just have been cagey and fetching a basic because their hand allowed them to do that. Another Delver of Secrets. Sure. So there might be quite a bit of damage coming in next turn. Good to know. Painter's Servant. That certainly does some things for us. I'd like some more mana. That is mana. I'll put that on top of my library. I will deploy the Welder here. Got another Daze. Force of Will pitching that Murktide Regent we saw earlier. Opponent's down to 1 card in hand. So if we can just plow these guys. Oh, the Wasteland though. They might save the Wasteland for the Urza Saga. Or they might snap it off right now because white is a removal colour. Sure. Now, we're only taking a little bit of damage this turn though. Right, so there's the Saga. Do we play out a Grindstone and a Solar Lantern to make sure that Murktide Regent doesn't ruin us? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I think I like put the Grindstone first, so it's just there ready for us. And then we'll play out this Saga Lantern. I will take out their Force of Will here. So if they put any other card in the graveyard, then we can crack the Saga Lantern and stop them playing a Murktide. So they can't just play an island and play a Murktide. They need to fetch and put something in the graveyard. Scalding Tarn, and they are revealing this to us for some reason. We've dodged it again. This is fortuitous indeed. Right, a Wasteland, that's going to take out our Saga. Yep. So now we know the last card in their hand is a fetch land. We know they have to crack this before they can put a Murktide region on the stack, so we can make sure we hit the fetch land as well out of the graveyard to make future delves worse. If we find a white source, we can just start annihilating our opponent's permanents until we are ready to win the game. Fable of the Mirror Breaker. Are we supposed to draw a card here? I don't think so. I think we have to respect Murktide Regent. This is another match where I'm having trouble with my lands. We have been hit by 2 wastelands. That's not nothing. Underground Sea, alright. Scalding Tarn. I think we might have to crack the Saga Lantern for a card and just hope they don't Murktide, especially since he didn't flip. So we need to find something. Well, the thing we need to find is mana, isn't it? Ancient Tomb. So we could plow, or we could just put Painter in play and say we're going to win the game next turn. I quite like just saying we're going to win the game next turn when you know our opponent's got nothing. So they don't know that we have the mana. They're probably expecting we don't have the mana because we have been a bit shy on mana. But we can actually do it through a wasteland here. Alright, Brainstorm is a very, very strong hit for our opponent there. Yep. That's a strong turn for our opponent there. If they have an answer for our Painter, we are cooked. If they have a Lightning Bolt, they can kill us in response to this Grindstone activation. The Urza Saga means they can't do that. So if they have a Lightning Bolt and they direct it at this, then we're going to lose anyway. But this stops us having... Does it make a difference? Stifle was pretty bad. And play out the Tomb. I'm going to activate this. Alright, they didn't have anything. Whew! Tight. So, Fury certainly has some merit in this matchup, as does the Canoptek Scarab Swarm and the Ensnaring Bridge. Vexing Bauble also looks pretty good to stop all their annoying counter magic. I don't think we want Thorn of Amethyst. Pithing Needle for Wasteland seems very good here. We want our Plows, our Pyroblast are great. Our Canonist probably isn't where we want to be here. Removal that actually hits our opponents. Big scary things is nice too. What are we thinking in terms of cuts though? Well, we could go down on the Grindstones. Shave like a Grindstone and a Painter. Maybe we shave 1 Defiler, and then this can be a thing that we tutor for. That leaves us still trying to find one more slot. Part of me is edging towards Fable. Even though it's really powerful, it is a thing that gets caught by days very often. Maybe we just trim a Petal. Actually, it's probably better to trim a Spirit Guide, isn't it? Try that. Spirit Guide helps pay around days, but these are artifacts for our synergies with Welder and stuff. Got a Goblin Welder, we got some removal. I think this is acceptable. A Delver of Secrets, sure. Alright, now we're cooking. Let's go and get a basic mountain. Perhaps Lotus Petal first in case we need to pay for days. Pay as Welder. Next turn we can try and get the Chaos Defiler kicking, and that should be absolutely terrifying for our opponents. So we could have pitched the Fury right then. I think we can do a little bit better than that. Dismember by the looks of things. It is a Dismember. Okay. So now we're probably incentivized to Fury this turn. Ooh, maybe not. Although Plow does hit everything. Alright, I'm going to pitch cast this Fury right now. See if our opponent wants to do anything about it. It's basically just like Solitude and a creature. It's the same sort of deal, really, isn't it? It is a 2-for-1 on our part, but it should buy us quite a decent chunk of time. Let's get this Engineer going. How defensive are we being? Are we getting the Dragon Engine to draw a bunch of additional cards? Or are we getting the Ensnaring Bridge to hide behind? I think I want... The problem with the Dragon Engine is it's really awkward if we've got this Plow that we're holding in our hand right now. I think it probably still is a Dragon Engine though. If our opponent's not playing creatures, then we don't really mind that much anyway. A Wasteland, you say? Interesting timing on the Wasteland here. I don't think we use that for an Engineer just yet. We can do that in a minute. A Fable. We can play a Soul Guide Lantern and use our Petal to weld this into the Dragon Engine if we want. I will take out one of the instants. This holds up. We can Dragon Engine if we need to, sacrificing our Petal and Saga Lantern. I'm quite into making sure I can cast this Plow. Chaos Defiler. That's something I would like to put into play at some point. I guess we're just holding up the hope that we can Plow and then put in the Dragon Engine. Maybe I should be more aggressive with this Dragon Engine. But we'll see. So our opponent can put a Murktide Regent into play this turn. We have a Plow for that. A Lightning Bolt, you say? I guess we don't have to discard our hand if we don't want to, but I need some more lands. If we draw one land, then we can play this. And we still have the Plow. Are we supposed to do this or keep it in play? I'd happily loot this away. This is not something I really want to loot away, though. Neither is this. I think we say no to this. As awkward as that is. So, attack for 4 at least. It's not an unreasonable clock by any stretch of the imagination. Psychic Frog. That is something I would very much like to do some murdering towards. Pyroblast. That is a pretty good find. Right, let's try and Plow this. Then we attack and see if they pump the frog to try and block this. And we can get more juice out of our Pyroblast here. More Pyroblast on our turn just in case they discard any cards. Daze blows us out pretty hard here, but this Psychic Frog, if it connects once, it's pretty scary. If it connects twice, then it's an absolute disaster. And if it's 3 times, it's usually game over. Alright, so the Daze, sure. And now they're probably... No, they're not going to pitch that land. That was their only black source. Alright, needs to draw a card here. Use Underground Sea from earlier. There's the Murktide Regent. Alright, I think this game is over now. We can't draw lands in our deck. Feels like a real problem. Very funny deck. So we do this. Surveil, Mox Opal doesn't do anything for us. That go into the graveyard. Alright, so they can jump their frog and bash for quite a bunch here. If they got double bolt, we could die. Not much we can do about this either. Got 2 lightning bolts in your 4 cards there, opponent. So we can't block this 7/7 Murktide with anything we have. So we have no recourse here. Yikes. Okay, let's just go back in. Part of me wants to play this Spirit Guide just for more mana sources, because I feel like we might not have enough mana sources in our deck. But I have to believe in the construction of the deck, I think. Alright, we're just gonna go back in again. If we find any coloured source, this hand becomes great. But I don't think we can keep it. Okay. We're pretty prone to getting blasted by wastelands here. But that is the price you pay sometimes. Am I supposed to just hang out this Urza Saga? I think I am, because I'd rather this get wastelanded than our Plateau, which is an awkward spot to be in. If we draw some more lands, then obviously things are a bit different. But based on the information we have in our opening hand, I think we have to play out the Saga. Right, there's the wasteland. Yep. We very much planned for that. It's still annoying. Alright, we can get a Welder down. If we can draw a Great Furnace, then we can do some pretty gross things next turn, potentially. Are they going to prioritise a threat? Or are they going to kill our guy? Or are they in cantrip territory? Right, they're going to kill our guy. On a mountain. I think we are casting this because we don't know when a wasteland. I don't think we can play around days when there's wastelands and stuff in our opponent's deck. Alright, a Force of Will. That was going to catch whatever we played anyway. I would like to not see a wasteland. Oh god, we are just absolutely cold to wastelands, it seems. Yeah, so now we can't cast these plows. We're a million miles away from this Fable the Mirror Breaker. Feels like we're already done. But we've got a few turns. Vexing Bauble is certainly a card that I'm allowed to cast. It does shut off our fast mana. But it means if our opponent's got more Force of Wills, like that one, it doesn't get to do anything underneath the Bauble. But the problem right now isn't them countering our spells. The problem is us not being able to cast them in the first place. Alright, 3 to the face. Ouch. I bet you think you're funny, don't you, deck? So we could crack the bauble to play the petal, to then try a plow that isn't going to work anyway because of the... I think we are just cracking the bauble here. Fury isn't nothing. Let's try this Lotus Petal. I'd ideally not like to pitch our Fable, because that's the thing that's going to be able to get us that mana advantage that we need to move forward. I think I can take 3 this turn, and then see what we draw, and hopefully we can draw something that's better to pitch to the Fury. We know there's a Force of Will over there. There's Race Channeler. That makes this Fury pretty good. So we can Fury pitching Fable, and if they Force of Will, we can Pyroblast it. I'm down for that. I hate having to pitch this Fable, but it's the situation we're in. Right, you can get your Surveil. Okay. So we've cleaned up the board. Our opponent has no cards in hand. We have 2 plows and no real mana. Board is kind of even, but our opponent top deck's way better because they have more lands to begin with and they're a cantrip deck. Ponder. Speaking of cantrips. A Channeler. Okay. An Ancient Tomb. That's certainly something. I think we will take this out. Stop our opponent getting more selection. There's an argument to not playing the Ancient Tomb there. But I think if we're drawing things like Sagas and stuff. Alright, nothing from our opponent. That means they've probably got a reactive card. Or a land they're keeping in hand. Right, I'll just keep playing out these Ancient Tombs. 6 is the mana you need to play both parts of the combo and activate in 1 turn. Oh, I love having to pay life to cast this. That makes me feel real good. What would I like here? Is it the Chaos Defiler? I don't think so. It's probably something like the Dragon Engine again. Just have that ability moving on. We can always actually just cast it if we find another red source. Or unearth it. There is the land. I'm just wondering if we wait a turn, then we can unearth it and weld it into something. I think we just have to play this though. We need to be doing something here. Drawing 3 cards feels like a good something. And I'll play this Soulguide Lantern and say no to our opponent having Murktide Regents. Our opponent's upkeep. We will exile their graveyard. I guess we should have attacked with the Engineer as well. If we're doing that. I haven't seen any Orcish Bowmasters or anything yet. Okay, I'm happy to see a Pyroblast here. Play this land out. Play this Pithing Needle. See if they correct their Scalding Tarn in response or not. They do. We'll name Wasteland. So we can flip this into a Soulguide Lantern and draw an extra card. I think that is worth doing. A Psychic Frog, you say? The card in our opponent's hand is Force of Will. We can play around this. We get the Vexing Bauble. Yeah, we have a Lotus Petal that we can use anyway, right? So we get the Elegant Parlor here. A Welder. Going to be useful. Right, let's Pyroblast this frog. Play Goblin Welder. And we'll hold open this Engineer. I can make a 3/3 Murktide. I think I'm just going to draw a card here. Means we don't have any artifacts to work with. But if we don't draw some artifacts at some point, then our game's just going to be very bad anyway. Another Welder. Okay. I guess we're playing Goblins now. We'll keep this in hand for future Fables. See, now we found all the lands that we weren't drawing before. Brainstorm is a very good rip for our opponent, especially when they've got a fetch land ready to go. Delver of Secrets. They found a threat. We are also only on 7. Fable. Okay, this is the exact sort of card that we've been looking to draw. I don't think we can afford to pay life. If we have to pay life for the days, then so be it. We did have a Force of Will. Sure. We are attacking with everything. Is that true? I'll trade a Welder. They're not going to block here. They're just going to take the damage and try and race us because they can kill us in 3 hits. Which is less than we can do. Ooh, Psychic Frog. That's pretty strong. That will be flying quite a lot. Right, so attacking is off the cards because they have an almighty 1-2. Okay, we found a good card. Can this get us where we need to go? So we get attacked for 5 this turn. And put us to 2, which will shut off both of our Ancient Tombs. A Brainstorm, yikes, that's a very good one as well. Then we get to attack with our Shaman token, then we actually have an artifact. Which could maybe be everything we need it to be. So our opponent's going to attack first. So they get more cards in their hand for when they Brainstorm. So Lightning Bolt here kills us. Here comes a Brainstorm. We're tapped out of red mana, so they know that they're pretty safe to do it. Without fear of Pyroblast. Land. An Unholy Heat. That's very good. That stops us getting an artifact. Alright. This Fable's got to be real good. So there's an argument for keeping the Badlands here. In case we draw the Chaos Defiler, we can actually cast it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. But then this will kill us anyway. No, we just have to burn them both. Okay. We'll have a Lotus Petal. Guess this Lotus Petal will become one of these things that draws a card. I guess the Saga Lantern is slightly better. So I need to draw a card that somehow gets us out of this bind. Fury. Plow. If we plow here, they hit us for 1. Okay, that's not dead, is it? For 1. So if we can find our Lavaspur Boots, we can give our Foe the Mirrorbreaker haste, which can then copy the Goblin Engineer, and then we can be okay. Our opponent can put us to 1 this turn. Got a lot of lands in play, though. We're going to go to either... I think they'll just put us to 2. There's no reason to put us lower. That shuts off our Ancient Tombs, which is very good. And they can kill us next turn with a frog anyway. Lightning Bolt. Looks like a Lightning Bolt. Yep. Ugh, that felt pretty horrible. We seem very susceptible to wastelands. And also, we don't have the highest artifact count. So we kind of have 2 failure points that have been exploited in both these rounds so far. Okay, let's go to round 3. Alright, this hand seems okay to me. I'll keep this. We've got a basic land. So we can play our Welder. If we draw into an Engineer, that's pretty good. Misty Rainforest. So we might play against some sort of counter magic. Are we getting scammed over there? Or is this some sort of combo deck? Mishra's Ball. Well, this suggests to me that our opponent is on some sort of tempo strategy. Likely of the Grixis variety. Or they could be using this to pump their Nethergoyf. Pithing Needle. We don't really need to worry about that one yet. Let's just get our Welder down. Just going to get Bowmastered. That's a possibility. You don't see that much Bowmaster at the moment though, because Psychic Frog is what everyone's playing instead. Scalding Tarn. Yep, so they are in Grixis, like I suspected. There is the Psychic Frog, which we do not have an answer for. Not yet, at least. We could name Psychic Frog with the Pithing Needle, but we can't block it right now anyway, so I think we're better off naming Wasteland here. We've got more welders. If we can do something with this Chaos Defiler, we can weld in and out an awful lot. But our opponent is about to start drawing additional cards. If this is what they want to spend their days on, that's fine with me. It was surplus to requirements, I would say. But I'm pretty sure we're just going to lose the Psychic Frog. I don't even have to pump. So our opponent's drawing 2 cards a turn. Dragon's Rage Channeler. It is Delirious as well. Can I afford to pay life with this? I don't think I can. Well, if I play this out, we can try a Chaos Defiler next turn. That seems pretty reasonable, doesn't it? I could take a Fable here instead. Or I could just make a Construct. I think I want the Construct because that turns on Mox Opal. And it gives us more artifacts to work with, which we did find was a problem in the previous round. Is this Fatal Push? It is a Fatal Push. Well, our Welder did nothing. I don't think we can block the frog here either. We just discard one card, and that takes us off of Metalcraft. That's just so scary, the amount of cards our opponent's got now. A wasteland, you say? That wasteland can't work because of our Pithing Needle. Let's see what we draw and see if it changes what I want to do here. A Great Furnace. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So you can play it around days. I mean, that's acceptable. Let's see if we can get a Defiler in. Have they got a Force of Will? Or double days? Oh wow, we're just in. Intriguing. Which one do we kill here? I think we want to kill the Channeler. Although the frog can do more damage. No, I think we just have to hit the frog, don't we? We can attack with our 4/4. If our Chaos Defiler dies, then we get to take out their Channeler. And we've got more Urza Saga action coming. They're pushing our construct. They left a card on top with the Surveil. It's a little bit scary. If they, let's say, bounce our Defiler, we can still try and replay it. Of course they have the bounce. They're bouncing our Pithing Needle. So we want to wasteland our Urza Saga. 6 coming in next turn as well. Alright, they're not going to have the 6 coming in. Another frog. Yikes. Give it a rest. Okay, let's play the Great Furnace out. Cast this Fable of the Mirror Breaker. And plow the frog. The frog represents more damage if they just bin their whole hand into it. So we're in Lightning Bolt range. We need our Fable of the Mirror Breaker to get some goodness going. Yeah, it's very hard to get our welders doing joined up stuff with our Defiler, really. You got Lightning Bolt to finish us off? We've drawn a lot of cards. Tamiyo, sure. That doesn't have power. That's good. I don't really like the Tamiyo in these tempo decks. I think it makes a lot more sense in the slow decks where you get to leverage making the game last longer. Okay. Yes, I'll bin off these two. Painter's Servant, you say? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So I could just cast this Fury. Petal. And make us tap the Ancient Tomb. It does put us to 1. A Brainstorm in response. Okay, they're milling the top card off of the Surveil. They get to flip their Tamiyo. But we don't really care about Tamiyo. The +1 doesn't do anything. It shrinks some damage a little bit, but alright, we just get to kill this. We can put 1 damage on the Tamiyo, I guess. It's free to do so. I could play out this Painter's Servant. I don't really want to be on 1. In case we do need to play something big next turn. We have lethal damage here, so our opponent does have to block. But they can block our 1/2 on attacks. Reducing the power of a Fury is a bit rude. A Goblin Engineer. If we engineer, can't put anything in the graveyard that does anything here, can we? 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 mana. This -1 this Tamiyo is actually going to be relevant. Means I can block our Shaman token and live. So if we get this Engineer going, 1, 2, 3, 4. We can't unearth a Phyrexian Dragon Engine. We can't do anything with any of these. I don't think we can win this game. Is the matter? Oh dear, oh dear. We're having a real rough time in this league. Let's jam in the Ensnaring Bridge and the Scarab Swarm. The Bauble is a weird one. I don't really want to tutor for it very often. And that one time we did tutor for it was kind of awkward. But it is, I don't know. It's tricky. I want to keep the boots, the needle, the lantern. The things that actually answer the big scary creature is important. Probably go down on some of these. Do I want a Canonist in the deck? Like, it's not unhelpful, but I think I'm just better off having this sort of stuff. I'm going to keep the Spirit Guide instead of the Bauble this time and see how that fares into this sort of matchup. Where are the lands in this deck? Where are they? Okay, it stops Murktide and stops Delirium. Seems a-okay. I think I'm going to get rid of... Is it the Plow or is it the Petal? It's probably the Petal. Relying on drawing some more mana sources. I think that's okay. Alright, let's play the Welder. If we can flip Canoptek Chaos Defiler in and out of play, that'd be really strong. If our opponent counterspelled that, it would have told us I don't have a Lightning Bolt. Or Fatal Push. I think Fatal Push is much better than Lightning Bolt at the moment, because it actually kills the Psychic Frog. Tamio. Plow. Let's get this Lantern down. We might be trying to draw a card with it, because we are in that sort of spot right now. Scalding Tarn. They attack with their Tamio. They get themselves a clue. They're cracking their Tarn. This gives us at least something to exile. If we can bring our Saga Lantern back next time. Psychic Frog. Okay, so we have to crack the Saga Lantern now, I think. So we're either cracking this looking for white mana, or we're not cracking it and hoping for the Engineer. I think we just have to crack it and draw a card though. Of course it would be the Engineer. Why wouldn't it be the Engineer? How we drew a Lotus Petal, that's actually pretty good. Let's see if we can resolve this Engineer though. Will you not get to resolve the Engineer? I'll plow this Psychic Frog though. And we may as well get him for one, because we're not doing anything else here. We can weld their clues into baubles, but that's not very good for us, because instead of paying 2 mana to draw a card, they pay 0 mana. So as this game goes long, our opponent's going to have a reasonable amount of card advantage going. And a ponder. Alright, so they're deciding to flip their Tamio. So they're just going to race towards drawing half their library. But we are a deck with a bunch of Pyroblast in, so we can just Pyroblast some of their guys at some point. Not now, of course, but at some point. So we can get Elegant Parlor, or we can get the Plateau. There's no point attacking because our creature shrinks. Alright, we are going to be getting an Elegant Parlor here. So you don't need to fire off this plow. I'll have a Pyroblast, please. Our opponent's going to draw a clue off their clue at the end of turn, so I'm going to wait for their clue activation. And then I'm going to Pyroblast the Tamio. Alright, so we've got a Brainstorm of our opponent. Alright, they got a Force of Will. I don't think we're going to have a lot of luck in this game. I think we are probably dead. So next turn they get to draw half their deck. And a Psychic Frog. And we'll snipe this out in a sec. There we go. Let's get rid of that. And we have a spell we can cast for all the good it's going to do us. Canoptek Scarab Swarm, not great into the old Tamio. Lightning Bolting our Welder. I don't think we got to weld a single time in this match. So they're going to draw half their library now, and I don't think we can beat that. Well, that's not true. Maybe we can somehow manage to get through like a load of counter magic or whatever. Yep, so they have no maximum hand size. They got 20 cards in hand, 23 cards in hand. So maybe we can combo through them. Oh, they're not going for our white source. That's interesting. Yeah, so being able to draw those cards with Tamio might look kind of good here. But if they'd have had anything, we wouldn't have been able to interact with them. They could have just won the game by now. Yeah, Meltdown's pretty good too. Like, this only did the thing because we had nothing going on. Okay. I think we just call it a day. No one wants to see this. Yeah, we're getting absolutely annihilated. We're having a lot of trouble to actually string together welder stuff that works. Yeah, really awkward. Let's go to round 4 in search of a match win. Okay, this has got to be good enough, surely. Opponent's mulligan to 6 cards. Are we just going to get windmilled by some sort of combo deck? It's certainly possible. I'll just play out this welder. We'll keep the Spirit Guide in case we need it for paying around a days or anything. An island. And a ponder. Let's shuffle off that ponder. Let's go for an engineer, shall we? I'm just going to put the Chaos Defiler in there. It's the biggest, meanest thing in town. There is an argument now to play out this welder so that we have multiple activations. I think I quite like that. Maybe at some point. I think we did pain to someone in the first round, didn't we? We haven't managed to grindstone kill very much. We haven't been able to win very many games full stop. Brainstorm for our opponent. If we see a plains, then we have to be careful about our Defiler not just getting exiled. Dryad Arbor. So we're on some sort of Bant deck, I would imagine. Or some sort of Nardu combo. Alright, I would very much like to just have a big, massive creature in play. There are no available targets because only non-land permanents. Plateau. But I think this Canonist is probably going to do more work for us. Opponent's definitely going to want to be casting multiple spells. Right. 6 damages. Also, Chaos Defiler is choose, so it won't trigger Nardu effects. This could be... I'm pretty sure it's just going to be like some sort of Nardu style deck. Our opponent can't cast any more spells right now. So let's swap this and this around. Let's swap this and this around. Just want to keep our beat stick going. And go attacks here. Alright, our opponent's just scooping up. I was going to name Misty Rainforest just to try and hurt on our opponent's mana a little bit more. Okay, that felt pretty good. Loads of mana dorks is something where I would like to Fury our opponent. That seems like a good shout. Doesn't feel like Soul Guided, but if they are some sort of Nardu breakfast deck, we might want to keep this in. Pithing Needle is going to have some uses here. Lavaspur Boots probably going to be useful too. Canonist also probably useful. Maybe we can trim a Lavaspur Boots. Do we want these Defilers? I think we just want one to tutor for. I don't really want like having multiple of them like that. We can try this. Our opponent does have basics in their deck, as they've already shown us, and they've got mana dorks, so they get them ahead of the Magus and it's not doing anything. Played a lot of creatures, so Thorn of Amethyst. Ensnaring Bridge. Yeah, the Thorn of Amethyst doesn't look great here. The Ensnaring Bridge is okay here. Potentially. I think we're just going to go in like this. I don't know 100% what our opponent's on. Okay, I can keep this on. The Chaos Defiler in hand is a little bit awkward. But we've got other things we can use the Engineer for. How worried am I about Wastelands out of our opponent? If they are a Stoneforge build, then I need to be quite worried about them. Alright, I'm just going to get a mountain to begin with. Let's get this Welder on the go. A Brainstorm at our end step. That's kind of unusual timing. Maybe they had like a Lauren reveal that they were going to cycle in the upkeep anyway, and that would make sense. Given our hand, I'm inclined just to get more basics here. Our opponent can't combo next turn, so it needs to play the Soul Guide out. See if we can get any reaction off of this Painter's Servant. I don't really want to attack into anything spooky, so we're just going to pass over. Right, they're ploughing the Painter. I thought that might happen, but we're happy because we got another one. Just trying to bait out some stuff. I expect to see like a Hedge Maze or something out of our opponent here. Just a trop. We got to play. They didn't play anything end step. That makes me think they don't have any of the Surveil lands, because why would you not get one unless it's in their hand? An Uro. Well, I've got a Saga Lantern in my hand right now, so I will be okay with that. Opponent's got a full grip of stuff. Let's cast a Saga Lantern. We didn't draw a land to play the Painter, so we could then flip it into the Saga Lantern. Is this going to be another game where we just don't have the lands to play the game? Could be. Alright. Let's take out this Uro. It's a good start. Let's bash with a little Goblin. I think I'm just going to draw a card in case we draw the Elegant Parlor and need to play it tapped. Alright, we didn't, but we drew something that I can play. Alright, Welder. So we can Goblin Engineer for a Grindstone and get towards milling our opponent out. I'm also kind of into playing Fable on our next turn. That will accrue us more mana, which is what we need to do our combo, and also give us some card selection, get rid of this Defiler in our hand so we can start bringing that back. Because like I said earlier, we did board out the other one, so we can't just tutor for one here. Bristly Bill. He's so bristly. So this is landfall, you put a +1/+1 counter on a creature. And then it's got an expensive ability to like double all the counters. It's like 6 mana or something. 5 mana, double number of on each creature, yeah. They're not a million miles away from doing. But this, because it targets a creature, it just lets you continue the chain when you've got a Nardu in play. A Grindstone, you say? I'll play a Grindstone. The reason we're playing them this way is if they daze the Painter, then at least we can Grindstone and then swap it with the Painter in the graveyard. Alright, so this doesn't actually stop us from comboing them next turn. Might be close to putting on our first match win, or our opponent could just play like Shuko and Nardu and win this turn. Haven't seen any of the breakfasty stuff, so this might just be full on Nardu combo. Here's the Nardu. Okay, you got a Shuko. Nomads. Yep. Alright, let's see how bad it is. Right, so they put Swords to Plowshares in hand, and now they have a Tundra, so now they can just plow whenever they want. So we can't win next turn, as long as that land is untapped. Caracas, yep. Lots of Bristly Bill activations. We're going to see some more. Dryad Arbor comes in. That's another creature that they can then start stacking some counters on. Maybe they must have breakfast combo in there somewhere. Alright, they're just putting loads and loads of stuff into play and into their hand. What a fun little design mistake Nardi was. Not really sure how you make that mistake in design, but there you are. Alright, we've got more and more cards coming along. We need to draw like a... They're just playing out this Nardu. So what this Nardu does is this means it resets the ability. So this one can now trigger twice on every creature. Because why not? Okay. They've got an endurance, so we can't even grindstone them out. I just want to see if they are playing the breakfast combo or not. They probably don't need to. They're probably just playing like the modern deck, but with legacy cards in. Although we haven't seen the little Nantuko creature, whatever that's called. Right, they got a Sylvan Safekeeper. They're passing with Swords to Plowshares up. So we need to draw Pyroblast here. That doesn't really work against endurance either, though, does it? Let's see what they discard. They're unlikely to discard the things I want them to. Yeah. A Lotus Petal. We can get a Pithing Needle and stop the Nomads and Core. But they have a Prismatic Ending. We need our opponent to make a mistake. Alright, they can just start Nomads ending in our turn. Show us if you got the breakfast combo or not, please. Haven't seen Stoneforge Mystic yet either, which is another thing that would be quite important to know about. Yep. We're ploughing our guy now. Well, this is our chance, isn't it? We hold priority. We get our welder. Our servant here. Alright, they're cracking fetch land. Well, they've got a Force of Will, even if we had anything we could cast. They've got endurance if we do mill them out. But I would just like to see their deck. This game is lost. It has been for quite some time. I just want to see the last few pieces for game 3. Our opponent is invoking an endurance at a weird timing here. I guess they're just going to get rid of our painter here. But that's not going to work when we just swap it again. Look at this ridiculous stack. Another endurance. Okay, they're not going to let us see their deck. We might get to see it next turn, although I don't know how much power they've got. Let's have a little count. 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. Yeah, that's enough. I'll scoot this up. Okay. What are we supposed to do about this then? Like, we just need to win before this happens, really. That is the strategy. I guess we just go in again. Right, Ensnaring Bridge won't matter because either they won't have things going on, so it won't do anything, or they'll have their combo going where it doesn't matter what we play because they get to draw the whole deck and answer all of our permanents. So it's just like, yeah. Alright. What does our hand accomplish here? We have 2 white spells we can't cast. We have a Fury we can't cast. This hand does not work. Well, this hand does do a thing, doesn't it? We can keep this. What are we getting rid of here? I like having removal. I don't think we need the Soul Red Lantern. So if we play the Grindstone this turn, we can then plow and painter next turn. Or we can play... Yeah, that works out best for us, I think. Let's crack this and get Plateau. So next turn we can play painter, hold up plow, and then have a win potentially the turn after. If that doesn't work, we can start doing Goblin Engineer things and eventually get there as well. Tropical Island from our opponent. Some sort of mana dork, I imagine. Green Sun Zenith for some sort of mana dork. Let's try a painter. And then blue. And I think we just need to bolt the dork. Once our opponent has their thing up and running, we can't beat it anyway, because they can just keep going off in response. And sure, maybe we get to eventually plow the Nardu, but not until they've drawn, like, 15 extra cards. So I think the plan is to stop them getting to the point in the first place. There's a Savannah. So we could see our Painter Servant plowed here. Disruptor Flute. That's going to name the Grindstone, I would imagine. Alright, Modern Horizons cards. You can give me a good kicking, I see. So we're probably on Fable the Mirror Breaker. A Pyroblast. I do like that one in the near future. Let's just get this up and running though. Pyroblast allows us to block the Disruptor Flute. And our opponent might not see that coming. I'm going to daze this or force it. It's definitely something you want to react to with counter magic if you can, because it automatically gives you a 2-for-1 by giving you the body and the enchantment that can then do more stuff. Oh, we're just in. That's nice. Let's put our opponent back down to 20. A Caracas. That doesn't really influence what we're doing. A Nardu. Okay. Another Pyroblast. I'm going to get rid of this. Looking for a land. We found a land. It's not the land we want. Oh, it doesn't matter actually, does it? It does work here. We attack with this. We have 2 Pyroblast sources. Let's destroy the Disruptor Flute. We can pay for a daze. We can also play another Pyroblast. Counter-attack spell if it's blue. So they need to have Endurance and green card in hand. Alright, we managed to get our first match win. It was against the Busted Nardu deck, so that's exciting. Double Pyroblast, pretty good as it turns out. This puts us on a pretty dismal 1-3 record going into the final round, but let's see if we can stick a 2-3 and get a few pity play points back. We are struggling with lands over here. There's already a mulligan with a Canonist. I think we're just going to mulligan this one. Okay, it's kind of similar but different, I suppose. What are we sending back? It's probably the Defiler, isn't it? That's not really... We want to be here. We can go get an Elegant Parlor on turn 1, and then we can play the Saga and drop an Engineer or a Canonist. A Glaring Fleshraker of a Lotus Petal. So our opponent might not be Eldrazi aggro. It might be a colourless deck that it just happens to run those. Ooh, does that change anything here? We can start cranking out Saga tokens next turn. Sounds pretty reasonable. But I think we might want the Canonist given our opponent's doing Fleshraker stuff. I think we're going to Elegant Parlor and then assess the situation. I don't think making Saga Constructs is going to be good enough to beat Eldrazi aggro, and it's probably not going to be good enough to beat the sort of colourless Forge deck. Right, so we are looking more like the aggro. So we're looking for plows, we're looking for a way to combo. Alright, our opponent's got another spell as well. Just an endless one. Sure. That basically turns one of the spawn tokens into 3 power. Does mean that they're not holding out for another endless one later on, which probably means they have more threats in hand. Alright, Elegant Parlor. Let's have a look. A Badlands. No, we don't want that right now. A Welder. So if we play out Welder this turn, and then next turn we can have 1, 2, 3, 4. So we can play out Canonist, Engineer, and then start doing Defiler stuff. I think that is the best way to try and win this game. I'm going to play out Goblin Welder. But we might not be able to survive this turn depending on what our opponent does. There can be some pretty grotesque chains with Kozilek's command. Another It Heralds the End. Sure. My guys are large. I don't believe we can win now. We've only had 2 turns in this game, and they're threatening us with what? 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16 power. Yeah, we just absolutely cooked here. Yeah, that was pretty brutal. So we want these spells here, and we want the Ensnaring Bridge. We do want the Defiler, but do we want 2 of them? It's just such a weird number to have 2 of. I don't think we want the Canonist. Like, it is okay here if they're chaining stuff. If they're just like, oh, here's a big fatty, then it's just not doing very much. We don't require this. Our opponent hasn't shown us Wastelands. Maybe we can get away without this. Lavaspur Boots might be the thing that lets us like get our Fable the Mirror Breaker copy that we need in the right timing. I don't like the Pyroblast here. So maybe we do get to keep the Canonist. Good day. Let's try that. I'm going to be a little bit more assertive with my Makes the Moon than last time I played Eldrazi. What does this hand do? We have a removal spell. And then we do Urza Saga stuff. Is that good enough? Doesn't feel like it's good enough. I think we can do better. Okay. We have some fast mana. We have a removal spell. A part of our combo. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We're not a million miles away from hardcasting this guy. By playing the Painted Servant out straight away, we mess with our opponent's ability to play colorless spells. Am I playing this Mox Opal? No, we're probably pitching it to the Fury later on. Okay. The more resources they put into whatever their first play is, the better our Fury can be. We might be hardcasting a Fury soon. Like any other artifacts. Or another piece of mana gives us a turn 3 hardcast Fury. Which isn't going to work the way you want it to, opponent. Your spells are not colorless. No, that's not going to work. You can't cast any spells by tapping it for 2. Right, our opponent tapped and untapped a fair bit and then stopped. So, Painted Servant has obviously done a bit of a number on our opponent. Another Painted Servant. That does give us the hardcast Fury next turn. I will play this. Attack for 1. I will not play out the Mox Opal, just in case our opponent's got some sort of meltdown type stuff. We're getting Elegant Parlor at end step. We can hardcast a Fury if our opponent manages to put any creatures into play. Alright, they've got a Wastes. That does actually tap for the relevant things here. It's going to be a Thought Knots here. I felt like that's what our opponent was trying to cast last time. There it is. Sure. So we're going to lose our Fury. But if we draw Grindstone, we do just win if our opponent doesn't have any reshuffles in there. Goodbye, Fury. Elegant Parlor. Cheeky little Surveil action. A Plow. I would like to put that on top of my library, please. Let's get rid of that big guy. Draw a free card here. Magus of the Moon, you say? They still have their basic here. But Ancient Tomb, looking a lot worse now. Our Eldrazi lands are already kind of nerfed because of the Painted Servant. We're jamming our opponent up a fair bit. They will probably struggle to cast any sort of off-color thing, so any coloured thing, I suppose. Because their main colour is colourless, so actually trying to cast something like Sowing Micro Spawn might prove difficult, because the only way they're going to cast it is off of basics. Okay, we'll attack. Let's get Fable going. We'll keep the Sin Spirit Guide so we can pitch it to our Fable. There's another mountain for our opponent, so they can hardcast a Thought Knot Seer here. And that's what they're doing. Okay, you can get my Simian Spirit Guide. That's one less card we get to loot with Fable. But they are now roadblocking us. So we can't get through this with our creatures at present. How good is this Lavaspur Boots? It does mean that any sort of... Like, when the Fable will be active next turn. Which is pretty good. I think I'm going to say... Oh, sorry, the Fable will be... Yeah, the Fable will be active next turn, yeah. And that's fine. Just make the Makes of the Moon more difficult to answer. If they start attacking, they've got a 4-turn clock on us, and we can clock them in, what, 5, 6, 7. So we can do them in 3 turns, so they can't attack yet. We've got 2 more Furies in our deck to draw, which will be castable at some point. A Glaring Fleshraker. Yeah, it's a pretty good one. Yeah, that waste our opponent has is very, very useful. You can flip our Fable here. Let's make our Reflection of Kiki-Jiki hasty. We don't need to fire it off now, we can just do it in the end step. If our opponent finds something like a Cosette's Command and a second Wastes, that could be a lot. So our opponent going to attack. Just make a Sharpen token. This can just get us more mana, more artifacts to work with. That is not a good draw. Or at least accruing something from these exchanges. How sick would it be if I had a Fury in hand? Just got to take out both their creatures. That's the dream for next turn. Obviously we could just draw Painted Servant or Goblin Engineer and just win the game. Sorry, not Painted Servant, Grindstone. Warping Whale. Create a 1/1 colorless Eldrazi token. Okay. Kozilek's command on our Magus of the Moon. I guess so. Chance of the Void, X equals 1. That does have an impact, for sure. Bring on Shaman token. Our opponent's got no cards in hand. And we do get to play our Urza Saga now. Which does get us to where we need to be in a few turns. I'll take that free mana. Also means our constructs are going to be massive because we've been pumping out these treasures. A wasteland on our Saga. Sad, but not unexpected. We can't play a Welder because of the Chalice, so we can't get rid of the Chalice. I don't think we have anything that does that, because even if we had Pyroblast still in the deck, they don't destroy the Chalice. We don't actually have any artifact removal. If we can find a Fury, we can win this game. Kozilek's command. Okay. Only one Painted Servant left now. They're doing the draw mode as well. I put them both on the bottom, so they are just getting a random card one rather than one they definitely wanted. Make a friend. Engineer. That'd be a nice draw. Another Saga is certainly one that I will take. That gives us a route towards winning the game. Our opponent's got something over there. Tapping and untapping some lands. Thought not. Okay, that could have been worse. So we're going to have the biggest creature on the board next turn. There's no point attacking because they can just chomp with an Eldrazi spawn. Oh, coming in, are they? I'm just going to take it. We can copy our Saga tokens as well. If we make a Saga token, nothing happens anyway. Like if we attack with them, all we do is take out one Eldrazi spawn. So next time we get a Grindstone and we can try and win the game. We forgot to attack with that token. That was foolish. Too busy thinking about the next turn. Probably have some sort of Null Rod level card. That would certainly do us in. Let's make a construct. Let's copy the construct. Let's go to blocks. We'll block one on the Flesh Raker, and we'll block one on the Thought Knotser. Because I don't want them to be able to like ping us a bunch. Maybe we're not supposed to take the 4 there and chump as well. I don't think we need a token here. Just float some mana. Get a Grindstone. Alright, our opponents scoop that one up. So we can go to the final game of this league. I think the tools we brought in seem to be pretty effective, so let's just try it again. Alright, we're into the final game. Our opening hand looks pretty awkward. I'd describe this as. I don't think I can keep a one land like this. I think we're going to send this one back. Alright, this one I can keep. And we can get rid of one of the engineers or or the Fable. I think it's probably an engineer. So we start off with an Elegant Parlor. Then we get to plow something. Then we get to play a second land and work towards this Magus to shut our opponent's mana base down. If we can stop them from having colorless mana, we can win this game. Null Rod. That's a pretty strong one. Bit of a nombo with the old Lotus Petal though. And I put this on 0. Considering what I'm doing over here right now, that doesn't really bother me that much. Elegant Parlor. This feels like a very good way to play around the things in play, but it's a very bad way to get our Magus of the Moon into play. Interesting. Are we just bottoming this and hoping to draw another land, or are we just taking the guaranteed land and treating this like a Lotus Petal to make our Magus of the Moon happen? I think I will keep it. I'm going to be in that horrible spot again of, do I try and get some Urza Saga constructs going or not? Considering it's going to be hard to win the game without them. Okay, a wasteland. I see. Like that, is it? So I think we just play the Badlands out and then maybe try and leverage this as a Saga. We can draw a land next turn. Our opponent kept a very defensive hand rather than just going full aggro, which is what won them the first game very easily. A Wooded Foothills. Okay, I think I'll play this as Saga. I'll play out this Goblin Engineer. Say yes, and what are we going to find? Nothing that has a tap ability, obviously. Do we want a Chaos Defiler? I don't think we want a Chaos Defiler. We could have a Canonist, but that doesn't seem great here. We might just take the engine here. I'll take the engine. Next turn we can Mages of the Moon, or we can make some Urza Saga constructs. There's a wasteland. Okay, we don't get to do that. Understood, opponent. A Grindstone. Track this for a white source, I think. Play out this Grindstone with the intention of turning into a Dragon Engine. We won't discard our hand, I don't think, here. Our hand is pretty solid. But we'll have a 4-4. Well, a 2-2 with double strike. Same but different. Okay, we definitely want this to get killed, so we're going to wait for it to put the trigger on the stack. And then we'll plow it. And now they're going to take our Magus, I would imagine. Maybe we should have kept him 1 Pyroblast. But I would imagine that Chalice goes on 1 more than 0. So that's not really an answer in those situations. It's got a lot of Ancient Tombs. A Magus of the Moon, you say? Well, I'm going to cast that. And I think I would like to have this Dragon Engine. I think I will discard my card. We're basically discarding Fable the Mirror Breaker for 3 cards, is what that situation is going to be. So our opponent can't really cast any spells in their deck without wastes. Alright, no waste yet. Let's get this Dragon Engine back. Yes, I will discard my hand. Like, Fable is a good card, but we've got other good cards on our deck. This Great Furnace is no good. Welder's pretty interesting though. Although I'm not sure how many artifacts are going to be in our opponent's graveyard for us to weld this Chalice out. Another Saga is no good under the Magus. Right, let's play this Welder out. I can turn this Great Furnace into a Painter. That's reasonable. It's an additional point of power in play. So this is 6. There's a 3-turn clock. I guess Chaos Defiler is our out to these things, but we can only get that in by putting it in the graveyard and reanimating it that way. But that is a way out of these permanents our opponent has. Alright, our opponent's just had enough with us and has scooped it up to give us the final 2-3. Was a little tough. I think the first round against Eldrazi, if we'd have prioritised the Mages of the Moon harder, we might have been alright, but they did potentially have the ability to answer it anyway, so we might not have got there. But very powerful card that match up. So let's talk about this deck. I don't know if it was just the amount of variance just coming up against us, or if it was the fact that this deck doesn't have enough lands, but I was consistently finding I didn't have enough mana to cast my spells, especially since we were trying to be casting like white spells alongside our red spells. And, you know, we had this one Bloodstained Mire, this one Badlands, and only one Plateau, and sometimes our other white source we could find would come into play tapped, and then that would be useless. So there was definitely some tension in our mana base. Do I believe that you even need to play a Badlands in this deck to run Chaos Defiler? I think you could run one Chaos Defiler and get rid of the Badlands and replace it with a second Plateau. And that would make me a lot happier about this mana base. And maybe instead of the second Defiler, we could just have a Mountain. Or just have a little bit more mana. Because I did feel like we were shy of mana a few times. And in this deck, if you end up with too much mana, you do start just chucking it into Fables or chucking it away with the Phyrexian Dragon Engine. So it's not like it's the end of the world. I don't think we need to be running 2 Defilers. And I think the mana base is a little bit clunkier. I preferred playing mono-red painter decks. Yes, they do have some weaknesses. But the mono-red builds, they get to play City of Traitors, which can certainly help power out some pretty strong turns. And the mana base is just a lot more solid. So I think that's definitely something I would consider. Like, the deck didn't feel great to me, to be honest. But I can definitely see where the power is. I've played enough painted decks over the years to know that it's a real deck and that it's pretty good in Legacy. But what I will say is that Modern Horizons 3 has changed the format a lot. We spent a lot of time terrified of all these Modern Horizons 3 cards, right? Whether it was Psychic Frog or Nardu or like some of these big Eldrazi's, like not even the big one, the Glaring Fleshraker, and the one that just pumps all the little guys. That was really scary too. And our opponent, I think they clocked us on turn 3 with like 20 damage or something ridiculous. So it did feel like we're playing an older form of this deck, and maybe we need to try and find a way to update it a little bit, considering some of the things in Modern Horizons. Although I do like the fact that Pyroblast is just a nice clean answer to Psychic Frog. That is always really lovely. The Source to Plowshares are fine. I think the mana restrictions on them is a little bit awkward. And if this was something like Lightning Bolts, so maybe we had like 3 Lightning Bolts here and another Fury, something like that, I would probably feel a little bit better. but we would be weaker against Psychic Frog, so maybe you want another Red Blast in there for that. Because that is definitely a threat you have to keep on your radar at all times. It does just win the game pretty much automatically. I'm not an expert at playing Painter though, so I'm sure like a good player like Lightwalker on YouTube, if you watch their channel, they make the best Painter Servant content. Like, they're an expert with a deck, and you should definitely check it out. But anyway, so someone like Lightwalker playing a deck like this, they would probably get a lot more out of it than I will, and they'd have better mulligan decisions because they have the experience. I think playing the White Splash is quite a different feel to me. I did miss some fast mana as well at times, because some of the builds I'm more used to playing would have like 6 of like this pile of cards instead of 5, which doesn't sound like much, but that's not including the Mox Opal actually. So instead of 4, we'd have 50% more with like a couple more Spirit Guides and have like a 3-3 split. I play builds like that and they feel really good. It just felt like we were a little bit light on mana at times, really. Sideboard wise, yeah, these tools make sense. I would like to see something along the lines of a Braid or Fiery Confluence, something to blow up artifacts. Because if our opponent's got a Chalice on 1, that can be really annoying, especially if we're in like a matchup like that where we're bringing in our Blood Moon effects, which I think is the Eldrazi matchup's one you're going to see a lot more moving forward. So I think having Chaos Defiler doesn't really work if you're bringing your Mages of the Moons and stuff, because you might not have access to black mana. You're basically relying on like Petals or Opal, which might get shut down by Null Rod, as we saw. So I wouldn't mind having just something that we can point at some artifacts somewhere in there. Whether that's Fiery Confluence or a Braid, I don't know, but something like that would be what I want in the sideboard. Everything else here makes sense to me. Maybe we just got a bit unlucky with some of our draws. Like, we did also have a struggle to have enough artifacts to do Goblin Welder things. Well, we had an entire match where we didn't get to activate Goblin Welder. We just couldn't find any artifacts to do anything with. And it does feel like this list is a lot shyer on artifacts than some of the previous incarnations of the deck. So I would look to those other decks. But I think the thing with Painter is the core combo is something you can flex into a lot of different decks. You can build different ways around. Like, we've seen blue Painter, we've seen white Painter, you know, we've seen like the classic strawberry Painter, strawberry shortcake. We've seen obviously mono red. This is a red white one as well, but it's a bit different to like the old shortcake ones that were more about having lots of fast mana and going faster, and they used to even run in Light and Shooter once upon a time. So this is quite different to those lists, but I think you need to have a list that you personally have put work into with Painter. I think you need to be playing a list that you've got some little reps in and you understand the ins and outs with it and why you want all these cards and the numbers you want them in, because there is quite a lot of personal flavor you can tweak with some Painter decks, especially when you're stepping outside of the normal sort of mono red Painter, which does have quite a few flex slots, whether you're running more Brave Apprentice or Furies or whatever your Lightning Bolt and your fast mana count is. There's definitely a lot of options. Some people even run Karn, some have main deck Ensnaring Bridge. And I just don't think that the options in this particular deck appeal to me in a world where Wastelands are all up in my business and I need just more mana to play the game sometimes. And I think I want more artifacts as well. Alright, I think we are done with this one, so please like and subscribe. It does help the channel out and doesn't cost you anything, so why not? And if you do want to spend some money to help me out, I have a Patreon. You can just throw me a couple of dollars a month if you want to say thanks for making content, or you can get in touch with me and we can do some donation decks as well. Alright, thank you so much for watching, and goodbye. If you'd like to support me in the channel, please check out my Patreon. It has a free guide to budget turbo depths as well as 3 tiers of support. A low-cost one that enters you into my monthly raffle for a free donation deck on the channel, a mid-tier subscription that gives you access to my detailed Turbo Depths guide that is updated every month as well as regular articles, and lastly, the higher tier gives you all of the above as well as a monthly donation deck for my channel. If you're interested in supporting the channel this way, please check out the link in the description.